Have you ever felt so lonely that it feels like the whole world is moving on without you? For 2 years, that was my reality. It wasn't just about being single. It was a profound sense of isolation. I watched couples walk hand in hand, saw friends gathering for weekend trips, and felt like I was invisible, living life behind a glass wall. Every morning, I'd wake up to an empty apartment, the silence so loud it was deafening. I'd make coffee for one, eat dinner for one, and fall asleep with only my own thoughts for company. It was a cycle of loneliness that seemed to have no end. I tried everything to break free. I joined book clubs, took up pottery, and even forced myself to go to crowded social events, smiling until my cheeks hurt. But at the end of the day, I'd return to my quiet home and the heavy feeling would wash over me again. It felt like I was failing at something everyone else found so easy: connection. My friends, with their busy lives and happy relationships, would offer advice, but they didn't truly understand the depth of my solitude. You just need to put yourself out there more, they'd say. But I was out there, I was just ... alone. Then there was him. My neighbor. For 2 years, he was just a familiar face in the hallway. We'd exchange polite nods, maybe a quick hello while grabbing our mail. He seemed quiet, kind, and always had a warm smile. In my lonely world, these tiny interactions became highlights of my day. I started to notice the little things about him, the way he always held the door open, the sound of his soft laughter through the thin walls, the plants he meticulously cared for on his balcony. He was a constant, steady presence in a life that felt anything but. I found myself creating these little stories in my head. I'd imagine what his life was like, what made him laugh, what his dreams were. He became a character in the novel of my lonely life, a symbol of the connection I craved so deeply. I'd intentionally time my trips to the laundry room or the mailbox just for the chance of a brief encounter. Each short conversation, no matter how trivial, felt like a lifeline. I was slowly, secretly, falling for the idea of him, for the possibility he represented. But fear held me back. The fear of rejection was a monster that lived in my chest. What if he thought I was strange? What if he was already in a relationship? What if I made things awkward and lost even those precious, fleeting hallway hellos? The what-ifs were paralyzing. So I did nothing. I continued my routine, living vicariously through these small moments, nurturing a silent crush that grew bigger with each passing day. My loneliness was a safe, familiar prison, and I was too scared to attempt an escape. One rainy Tuesday afternoon, everything changed. I was coming home from work, completely drenched and miserable. As I fumbled with my keys, my grocery bag ripped open, sending apples and cans of soup rolling across the hallway floor. I just stood there on the verge of tears. It felt like the perfect metaphor for my life: messy, falling apart, and utterly embarrassing. I was ready to just sit down on the floor and cry. But then, a calm voice said, "Hey, let me help you with that." It was him. He knelt and started gathering my groceries, his smile as warm as ever. As he handed me a rogue apple, our hands brushed. It was a tiny touch, but it sent a jolt through me. In that moment, something inside me snapped. All the fear, all the hesitation, it all just melted away. I was tired of being lonely. I was tired of being scared. I looked at him, really looked at him, and knew I couldn't spend another day wondering what if. "Thank you," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "Really? You have no idea." He just smiled and said, "It's no problem. We're neighbors, right?" As we stood there, surrounded by my spilled groceries, I took the biggest leap of my life. I took a deep breath and the words just tumbled out. "I know this is going to sound crazy," I began, my heart pounding in my ears, "but for the past 2 years, seeing you has been the best part of my day. I feel so alone most of the time, and our little hellos in the hallway. They've meant more to me than you could ever know." The silence that followed was the longest few seconds of my entire life. I held my breath, bracing for awkwardness, for pity, for rejection. I squeezed my eyes shut, wishing I could rewind time and unsay everything. This was it, the moment of truth. I had laid my lonely, vulnerable heart bare on the floor of our apartment hallway, right next to the dented cans of soup. Was this the end of my quiet hope, or was it the beginning of something new? He didn't laugh. He didn't look away. Instead, a slow, gentle smile spread across his face, and he let out a soft chuckle. "Crazy?" he said, his voice full of a warmth that wrapped around me like a blanket. "The only thing crazy is that it took you 2 years to say something." My eyes flew open. He continued, I was going to put a note under your door tonight. I've been trying to work up the courage to ask you to coffee for months. I guess you just beat me to it, and just like that, the glass wall shattered. The weight of 2 years of loneliness lifted from my shoulders. We stood there in the hallway, laughing, a mess of groceries at our feet, no longer just two strangers passing in the hall. We were two lonely people who had finally found each other. That rainy Tuesday wasn't the end of a story. It was the beginning. It was the day I learned that sometimes the biggest risks lead to the most beautiful rewards, and that connection can be found in the most unexpected places, even in a hallway with a broken grocery bag. If you're feeling lonely, please know you're not alone in that feeling. Sometimes all it takes is one moment of courage to change everything. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe for more stories about connection and hope. See you next time.